The wait is over. After 100 days, the English Premier League will resume behind closed doors in just a few hours. Now, the first kickoff will be at Villa Park, where host Aston Villa will take on Sheffield United. But with the pandemic looming large, all eyes will be on how different match day will be. Now, we know that stadiums will be limited to 300 key people and divided into 3 zones. Players, coaching staff and match officials will be allowed in the red zone. A clinical passport will be needed to access the zone. That's a barcode showing the most recent coronavirus test result, and that's negative. So on the pitch, there will be no spitting, nose clearing or handshakes. And of course, safe distancing rules will continue to apply up to a point. So that means that players, they cannot surround officials, opponents, or gather for a goal celebration. But the lack of fanfare is the biggest difference. Since fans are not allowed into venues, clubs can use stadium dressing like fan imagery, flags and banners. And as for fans, well, fret not. If you feel weird celebrating at home, you can activate artificial crowd noises supplied by video gaming EA Sports. This campaign reboot is also not without a statement. For the first 12 matches, the words Black Lives Matter will replace all player names on jerseys. A minute of silence will be observed for the first dozen matches as well to remember the victims of COVID-19.
Now for more on this, Holly Hudson is ready for kickoff. She joins us from Villa Park, the home of Aston Villa. Holly, it's finally here. So tell us how match day is shaping up at Villa Park. Must be very different to how it usually would be.
Certainly, yes, as you say, this is the moment, the day that thousands, millions of football fans, in fact, around the world have been waiting for. But as an Aston Villa fan who's been here hundreds of times, at least on match days, I can tell you it is a very different atmosphere. Usually thousands of fans would be swarming around here, perhaps grabbing a pint at the pub before all 40,000 plus would pile into the Holt End to cheer on their home side, who this season are battling relegation. But of course, that isn't happening today. It's eerily quiet here because while Aston Villa are welcoming Sheffield United and welcoming the eagerly anticipated return of the Premier League, they aren't welcoming fans. All 92 games remaining in the Premier League this season will be played behind closed doors in empty stadiums as part of strict safety measures to protect against the virus. The same as we've seen in La Liga and the Bundesliga in Germany. And if you have seen those matches, you'll know it's a wholly different experience. Instead, banners will cover the seats here. Fans will have a virtual presence, images projected on big screens around the stadium, and Aston Villa's manager Dean Smith insists that they will still put on a show despite not having that atmosphere, that power behind them, because all eyes of the world will be on Aston Villa tonight. 700 million people expected to watch around the world, and there's no denying really how much of a big moment this is for people, not just football fans here in England. It's described as the national sport in people's psyche here. It will be an emotive moment for a lot of people, and there's worries that as a result of that, fans, people won't be able to stay away from the ground at kick-off later. The Premier League's chief executive and managers, indeed like Jurgen Klopp, urging people to watch at home where, as you say, people can add artificial crowd noise to their experience.
Holly, so, besides a different atmosphere, how will this actually affect the league, though, with all these new restrictions in place? Well, it seemed unlikely that we might even reach this point, given the weeks, months of debate. Politicians, players, clubs, the Premier League were embroiled in as to whether and how and should the Premier League, in fact, resume. The government, of course, have been in conversation with Premier League executives. Even the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, Jonathan Van Tam, had conversations to try and ease concerns of players. Even players here, Tyrone Mings, one of them voiced concerns about the resumption and the safety measures that would be implemented. But of course, there are now strict measures in place, a rigorous testing regime, as you explained previously as well. On top of that, you can't shake hands. Players can't crowd around referees and officials. They have to keep their distance during goal celebrations, and there's a special camera for them to direct their celebrations as well. Balls and corner flags too disinfected, no ball boys. So a series of strict measures
that will hopefully allow the Premier League to resume in as much normality as possible. And just in terms of that, Manchester City closed the opening night tonight against Arsenal. They host Arsenal in their first game, the second of the two matches being played tonight. And if they lose, that means that Liverpool's 30-year wait to be crowned champions could end on Sunday. Although with no fans, of course, that magical moment may well look and feel very different.
Exciting times ahead. Many thanks for that, Holly Hudson, speaking to us from Villa Park in Birmingham.